All right, this is a video showing how we tie an olive Kekeda, and I'm going to try and remember to say this 3 times in this video. We are not trying to compete with the person who originally came up with this pattern. The link to the Kekeda that you can purchase on Etsy is down in the description of this video. So please, if you don't tie flies and you want to buy a Kekeda, go to the URL and buy it from that guy or gal, whoever they are. We just saw it and thought it would be a cool fly to tie. We tie it a little bit differently. And so I'll show you some examples here in a minute. But yeah, it's kind of a neat fly. It kind of reminds me of a cross between like some other streamer and a woolly bugger. It's got some concept of that going on. Let me just show you the ingredients. We use large olive bucktail. That's a beautiful bucktail, by the way. Olive maribou. So there's your maribou that you typically use for woolly buggers. Some polar flash, they call it fluid twist. Some gold yellow polar flash. And then the body is made out of this pearl chenille. It's kind of a plasticky chenille. It's very strong though. It's tied on a string that makes it pretty strong. And I use this for scuds and I love it. And then finally we're using mustad, just straight mustad size 4 streamer hooks. They are 2 by height and 3 by long. So that's the kind of hook we have up there. And like I said, we tie it a little bit differently. The original one that caught our attention was orange. Here's our version of the orange. Notice that our orange maribou doesn't match our fire. This is a burnt orange maribou coupled with a fire calf tail, which is heresy, I realize. I apologize. I just haven't found any fire maribou. And then you can see the polar flash on the back, and then you can see that pearl chenille, which is kind of plasticky and hairy. You can see that on the body. Then we just formed a thread head and put some lacquer down on it. And that is, and notice we do not put a treble, another treble hook back here like the original fly tire does, because we tend to catch and release, and so we crimp down the barb even. And then the olive version is what we're tying today, and that's this. So if you notice, we've got, it's kind of a crappy job back here, Kevin. Come on, you're better than that. Anyway, there's our polar flash back there. There's our pearl chenille. And then it's basically this bucktail on top of a bed of maribou. And so those two together make for a real nice streamer. I got to give credit to the original designer. This is a great looking fly, and then a thread head with some lacquer over the top of it. So that's the olive version. I have fished a small version of this in a 10 that was a streamer, 2 by H and a 3 by long size 10 hook. I have fished this for trout and slayed, and they seem to hit it with a vengeance. So yeah, it was fun to fish with that one. And then finally, here's a kind of a tan one. Not quite as nice in my opinion. I didn't do as very good of a job on this one as I did on the other ones, but kind of a tannish pearl chenille, again with the polar flash in the back, and then some bucktail hair on top of some maribou. And then a thread head, and that's really all it is, but it's a great little fly. So once again, if you don't tie flies or you don't want to try to tie it, just go buy some from this person. The Etsy link is down below in the description. All right, so we have taken our olive thread, just standard thread. I'm a huge fan of, let's see if I can get it in the picture here, of this stuff. It's 136D 60W, whatever that means. All I know is it tends to be very strong, but not too strong. It's not too thick. All right, so the thing that we tie onto the end is the polar flash, and I already happen to have some cut up and ready to go. I probably should use more, but I'm being lazy today. So I typically try to tie it the length of the hook shank or a little bit longer to give it a nice flowing, So I'll tie that on the back, and I will usually crank that down quite a bit because you don't want this coming apart. The places that we fish, we catch and release usually 20 to 30 fish a day, each person. And so we don't want a fly to wear out, because that would mean we'd have to tie on another one. And I've had some flies, like my scuds, typically last 2 to 3 fishing trips. So that's like 60 different fish that have attacked the scud I make. All right, here is the pearl chenille, and I think the size is considered medium. I lost the container of it, so I don't really know. So now you're gonna tie the tying thread all the way to the front, get it out of your way, and now you're just gonna tie a nice body with this very, very tough, hairy chenille. Like I said, it's kind of plasticky, tied onto a very strong string. I don't know what gauge of string that is, but I have not had any trout anywhere ever rip this up. So it's very durable. Unlike peacock herl. Peacock herl gets ripped up by fish in about 2 seconds. Okay, now I'm not gonna go all the way to the front because I need to leave some room for that streamer, or the bucktail on top of the maribou. I need some room for that to go back. And then I also need some room for a nice big head. So I think I'll just go a couple more turns up here. That's about all I wanna go. And then here I tie the dickens out of this, because again, I don't want it coming undone. And I'll usually make a bunch of wraps around that. I'll turn it back on itself, tie it, really tie that down. All right, so now I've got my body done. Now it's time to get yourself some maribou, and you're gonna lay some bucktail on top of it. So what you can do is try and grab just a whole single feather of this stuff, like that guy right there. And what you could almost do with this is you could use this as your base. Just kind of cut some of that away. Make use of what's already on the thing. You know, some people will strip this off and then they'll cut it to size and do all kinds of stuff. I actually am probably going to cut the edge of that off with my fingernails. So what you do is you go all the way out to the end, and you're trying to kind of cut that off with your fingernails, and then that forms kind of a nice straight edge. So that's the bottom. So I'm going to cut that off, and I'm just going to leave that laying on the kitchen table here while I get me some bucktail. This was a beautiful, look at that, and it's got kind of a darker olive on the back side of it. So that's some gorgeous stuff. Love it. And so what I'm typically gonna do is I'm gonna come along here, find a good, and this is a size 4 hook, so I'll probably grab a decent bunch of this. And I'm just gonna grab it and cut it. I know you can't see very well, sorry. Okay, so now I've got a decent batch of that. I'm gonna lay it right on top of the maribou. And if I do it right, and I'm not saying I did, yeah, see, I didn't really do it right, but you end up with that. The buck hair goes on top of the maribou, and now you're gonna lay that across like that. And you're gonna tie it down really tight. Okay. Oh, and I did exactly what I didn't want to do. So we get to pause the video while I rethread the bobbin. Let that be a lesson to you. There's probably a thread that is a little bit thicker than this, but not so obnoxious that I just don't like thick thread, okay? While I'm rethreading this, let's say once again, this is not my design. It is called a Kekeda. If you like it, go to the Etsy link and buy some. Okay, I broke my thread off right there, right? So I'm just gonna come right back around and try and tie that off so that nothing hurt. Now I'm gonna come up under here. Now I'm not gonna cut it right there. I'm gonna leave some hanging over so that my thread will cover it and make a head. Yeah, see, that was actually kind of worked. Who knew? Who knew? So now I have some bucktail and maribou to work with. I can just tie over it and make this nice fat head. See how that goes together? Isn't that nice? That's really nice, I think. Kind of match it up here at the front. And I'll go back, make sure I'm tight there. Go back. I mean, this is a lot of thread. If I had thicker thread, I wouldn't have to make such a lot of thread on this, but I'm okay with it. Okay, now I've got that, so I'm gonna come back by with my I'm at an awkward angle, which is why this isn't working very well. Okay, there we go. I usually go around 3 times, tie the half hitch or whatever that's called, come around again, and then one more time. So 3 different knots. Okay, 3. All right, and then I really torque on it. I want to make sure that knot is not going to come undone. I also see just a little tiny piece of thread up here that I don't like. Okay, there we go. And then the head cement I use is this stuff. It came from Sportsman's Warehouse, and I like it because the brush stays in the down and doesn't get dried out. And you just go like that and you dab it on. Okay. Let that dry. And now you have a Kekeda. Probably not tied according to the original designer. We don't put another treble hook back here. We don't make it necessarily as bushy as they did, but it's still just a neat little fly, neat little streamer. I typically fish it wet and I fish it down deep. This is another thing that I'm probably going to get drawn and quartered over. I fish it usually with, and so you can tell this is the wrong size. This is probably too much. I should probably cut that back a little, make it a little bit more, but you never know. Sometimes the fish don't care. So anyway, I fish with spinning gears sometimes, and I'll use a water bobber and I'll fill it all the way full, so there's no bubbles in it at all, and that water bobber will then just sink slowly, not like lead, 6-foot leader to this fly, and now I can get this fly down deep where they usually are. So once again, I am now saying this a 3rd time. This is not my design. It is called the Kekeda. We altered it a little bit. We don't put a treble hook, and we don't tie it quite as well as the original designer. There's a link to the original designer's Etsy webpage. They are very reasonably priced. If you like this fly, go out and buy them from that person. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. And again, let me show you the different colors. This is what inspired us. That's probably one of the best ties you're gonna get out of me, where everything kind of blends in the way it's supposed to and it has a nice head. That's what inspired us. Was the original person had a real nice bushy orange one, and again with a treble hook. We don't add that. And then you can also tie it in tan and brown. The original designer has a whole bunch of colors on their Etsy page, so please go visit them, not us. We don't care. We're just trying to show you how we tried to tie it. So my hat's off to the original designer. Great job. Again, I have only fished the olive one. I have yet to fish the orange one and the brown one, but the olive one did great on a size 10 for smaller fish. All right, I hope you enjoyed it.